Say amen.
Amen.
Turn to Exodus chapter 20 and Deuteronomy chapter 5. Now, Exodus 20 opens up giving the Ten Commandments. The first being, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt know the gods before me. And it goes on through all 10, ending in the 17th verse. Then the response. And all the people saw the thunderings, which had nothing to do with the message at all. Not relevant to message. And the lightnings. And the noise of the trumpet. None of those things had anything to do with the message. And the smoking mountain. That would be a scary scene, though, wouldn't it? Mountains have an awesomeness about them anyhow, period. I always wanted to go down to the Grand Canyon, hike down to the floor of the canyon, and spend the night there. And that'd be some kind of, you're either going to stay good or you're not. A lot of ancient spirits running around those canyons. But to see a mountain is majestic. It's just something special about mountains. But to see one where there's a constant thundering, a steady bolt of lightning taking place, a sound of a trumpet blowing one note that gets louder and louder and louder and louder until you can't hear, and the mountain itself smoking, on fire, but not consumed. No wonder they did what they saw when they saw it. It says, and when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off. When you see God like he really is, you back up. You give him space automatically. He told Moses, set boundaries before that day takes place. Verse 21, the previous chapter. The Lord said unto Moses, go down, charge the people, lest they break through to the Lord to gaze, and many of them perish. Verse 16. It came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings, and a thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of the trumpet exceeding loud, so that all the people that was in the camp trembled. These things were all scare tactics. And they worked. These folks don't think about God. They know they got delivered by a God from Egypt, but they never met him. This is God's introduction. Okay? Verse 12. And thou shalt set bounds unto the people round about, saying, take heed to yourselves that ye go not up to the mount or touch the border of it. Whosoever touches the mount shall be surely put to death. God said, I'll kill him. So, that was not a problem after all. Because in verse 18 it says, they removed and stood afar off. Now let me put that to you properly. They didn't back up to here and stood. Every time God spoke, they backed up more. Every time. They backed up 10 times during that speaking. And they said unto Moses, speak thou with us, and we will hear. But let not God speak with us lest we die. What made them think they were going to die? Something did. Because all the chiefs of 12 tribes came to Moses with that same request. All of them. Something happened on Mount Sinai that they knew that they're going to get killed that day. So when God got finished speaking, first thing they said, speak thou with us. What did God do? He honored that. I don't know how you feel about me talking to you. But I can tell you right now, you're better off with me than God. You get away with murder, I'm preaching. You can nod sometimes. I don't think God would allow that. No. Your mind can drift sometimes. He reads your mind, you know. Should I think about tomorrow? He'd be a tough speaker. I mean, when you speak and have the undivided attention of 600,000 plus people, you're a pretty good speaker. Yes. Yes. No wonder it says you refuse to him that speaketh. This is speaking on the earth. It's saying Jesus was a better speaker than he was. And Moses said unto the people, fear not, for God is come to prove you, and that his fear may be before your faces, that you sin not. He's going to try to scare them into living righteous. I wish it could be done. I'd ask God to do it to all of us right now. Now turn to Deuteronomy. In Deuteronomy, the book itself is a review of everything that took place up until Deuteronomy. Moses is about to die, and he rehearses the things that are important with God and them to the congregation. That's what Deuteronomy is about. It gives a history, like a history book. Now, we go into some old territory again. And I expect this to be a part of this message, but God brought it out. I sat in the back seat this morning going to church. I got in the back. She'll ask me why. This discombobulated her. I said, because I can. That's why again. Why are you back there? I already told you. What? What did you say? She said, because I can. That's why I sit in the back seat. That's all. So I got in the back seat. Now she thinks I got in the back seat because of the way my suit looked. She said, that's why I got in the back seat. So every time you come out with a suit on that has chocolate stains on, that kind of stuff, I didn't go through inspection, okay? I grabbed the suit when she wasn't looking, got dressed, and came to church. All right? And the worse my suit looks, the better the message is going to be, because I don't care. Okay? But she takes real good care of me. You know, if I look nice, it's because she checked me out. If I look like I do today, I didn't get checked out. It's real simple. All right? So let's ignore it. Let's ignore everything. All right? She's embarrassed. That's the kind of wife she is. And she got a husband who could care less. That really makes it tough. Okay. That had nothing to do with the message at all. We just covered this recently. He gives them all the history from the time they came out of Egypt. Verse 9. Only take heed to thyself and keep thy soul. Deuteronomy chapter 4. Verse 9. Only take heed to thyself and keep thy soul diligently, lest thou forget the things which thine eyes have seen, and lest they depart from thy heart all the days of thy life, but teach them thy sons and thy sons' sons, specially. I believe this word only occurs right here in the Bible and no place else. Especially the day that thou stoodest before the Lord thy God in Horeb. This day at Mount Sinai, special day. You might call it the day in their history. It's the greatest turning event in their entire history. This day was greater than the day they came out of Egypt. Right? He says, especially the day that thou stoodest before the Lord thy God in Horeb, when the Lord said unto me, gather me the people together, and I will make them to hear my words. That's what makes this day special. This is the first time the congregation ever heard God's words, which they know now that he is the God and that he lives. Okay? Verse 12. Now let's do 11. Pick up 11 with it. And you came near and stood under the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire unto the midst of heaven, with darkness, clouds, and thick darkness. And the Lord spake unto you out of the midst of the fire. God, get this in your mind now, trying to visualize this. You had the thunderings, the lightnings, the dark clouds, the thick darkness, and fire, which they could not see because it was veiled by the thick darkness. But they felt it. I reached the subject. The heat is on. They didn't see the fire, but they felt the heat. Okay? And the Lord spake unto you out of the midst of the fire, not the darkness, not the lightning, not the thunder. He spoke out the fire. Got some little stereo systems. Still got them, I guess. There's still different skins you have for your Windows Media Player or whatever. And as a song plays, you got these bars, okay? And they go up and down, or all kind of stuff that moves with the lights for the music. You all got that, right? Right? That's what the fire did. The fire danced with his words. And as he spoke, the fire come out the mountain and go back in again. There's a reason he said, don't let God speak to us anymore. They said, lest we die. How? By being burned to death. Because the longer God spoke, the closer fire got to them. This only makes sense. How has God been speaking to us now? For quite some time. Has it been any hotter than lately? The longer God has spoken, the hotter it's been getting. Hasn't it? Some of y'all been getting scorched. The Lord spake unto you out of the midst of the fire. You heard the voice of the words, but saw no similitude. Only you heard a voice. God was in a foundation way back then for his most repeated scripture. He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. A lot of folks haven't figured out about God yet. They want an experience that God has to do with everything but hearing. They want to see God. There's folks when God said, he told Moses to hold him back. Don't let him come to the mountain to gaze upon me. He said, you come up and the elders. But the rest of them tell them they can't come up. He said, and stop them. Because they're going to see him. What did Jesus say? What went you out for? To see. Most folks go to church to see. Listen to when they come back from church. What they talk about. What they saw. And did you see so-and-so? And did you see sister so-and-so? And did you see red? Yes, what they heard. Trying to tip my tongue. Just out of church. And I did they heard. They're not there to hear. God's whole show is a hearing show. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's not a memorizing show. He didn't tell you to memorize anything. He didn't say he had the brain to memorize and memorize. He had the ears to hear the most simplest thing. Just let him hear. To hear with non-filtering ears. Because God's word need not be filtered. And that's what most folks mess up in church. They got this ear hearing spiritual things, and this ear hears carnal things, and it's kind of more or less like separates the message that goes along. I can apply this part to my life, and this part here I don't have any need for. That's typical person hearing God's word. This doesn't apply to me. This part does. And some Sundays, they feel like nothing applies to them. God missed them completely. The God who knows the hearts and knows the reins and can penetrate to the marrow of your bones missed them completely. How? How could God do that? How could God miss a person completely and hit 600,000 that day? He don't miss. I'm going to tell you right now, he doesn't ever miss. Okay? You might miss him, but he doesn't miss you. He got a thing that makes it seem like he misses. He got this act of rising up early. He's so early in this message so many times, you haven't gotten there yet. But he starts the early message so that by the time you get there, you'll be ready. I mean, God gives messages about our families dividing and so on and so forth for years. Well, that's for somebody in the church to go through that. You know, I preach it. But it wasn't me. I had no idea that God was talking for years to get me ready for events. He was going to shake my family apart. Which I could not have withstood had I not heard his voice all these years saying, here's what's coming. If it hasn't happened to you that day, believe me, whatever you hear is coming your way. That's why it says take heed and hear. Verse 15. Take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves. For you saw no manner of similitude on the day that the Lord spake unto you in Horeb out of the midst of the fire. Keeps emphasizing that fact. He spoke out of the fire. 24. For the Lord thy God is a consuming fire, even a jealous God. Verse 30. I'm 33. Did ever people hear the voice of God speaking out of the midst of the fire, as thou hast heard, and lived? He said, if anybody ever heard God speak out of fire like you guys did, they didn't live. When he spoke out of the fire, he killed them. He spoke out of fire for the purpose of killing them. Or hath God essayed to go and take him a nation from the midst of another nation? By temptation, by signs, and by wonders, and by war, and by a mighty hand, and by a stretched out arm, and by great terrors, according to all that the Lord your God did for you in Egypt before your eyes? Unto thee it was showed that thou mightest know that the Lord, he is God, there's none else beside him. Out of heaven he made thee to hear his voice. You getting that? That he might instruct thee. And upon earth he showeth thee his great fire. And thou heardest his words out of the midst of the fire. Chapter 5. Now, something's always bothered me. I didn't say anything about it because I felt like it shouldn't bother me. It seemed kind of dumb. But it still bothered me a lot. The first and great commandment, as verified in the New Testament, is this. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Okay? Well, that's wrong. Because in chapter 5, verse 6, it says, I am the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage. Thou shalt know the gods before me. That's the first of the 10 Commandments. So how does this one become first? When that one back there is first. This is given after the 10 Commandments. Okay? Just put that question in your mind for a minute. Another verse I just looked at this now, back there, in proximity of that I wanted to read. What verse we just read? 5 and 6. Look at 5 and 5. 5, 4, and 5. The Lord talked with you face to face in the mount out of the midst of the fire. I stood between the Lord and you at that time to show you the word of the Lord. Most of the reason I stood went to that mountain between you and the Lord was to show you God's word. To show you that God speaks. And that's why I did it. To show the congregation that when I talk to you in the mountain, I'm speaking. Okay? Let's go into verse number 22. These words the Lord spake unto all your assembly in the mount out of the midst of the fire, of the cloud, of the thick darkness, with a great voice, and he added no more. That makes God cool. God has never addended, is that the word? Added more to this, write an appendage, ever. He wrote it and he's done. That's a confident writer. If I was allowed to, I'd still be writing my book. Get some more information on another chapter. God said it all one time, added no more. And he wrote them in 2 tables of stone and delivered them unto me. And it came to pass when you heard the voice out of the midst of the darkness, for the mountain did burn with fire. Keep in mind now, they didn't see this fire again. The mountain said was on the smoke, it was dark, and covered with thick darkness. So they never saw the fire unless God spoke. Only time they saw the fire come out of the darkness was when God said something. You with me again? For the mountain did burn with fire. Why does he put that in parentheses? To let them know that there was a real fire underneath that thick blackness. The mountain burned with fire, but God coated the fire with blackness. So they couldn't see it. And so they wouldn't burn up too. That you came near unto me, even all the heads of your tribes and your elders, and you said, behold, the Lord our God has showed us his glory and his greatness. Oh, that God would show us that. We would never sin again. If God showed us his glory and his greatness like this, I think we'd all be good to go forever. Don't you? We don't fear God because we've never seen that side of him. And he let us know in Hebrews, I'm still the same consuming fire was back then. I had to simply shroud of things, as he says in that verse, let us have grace. A grace to bring you closer to me so you don't get burned up. But if you don't have the grace and come close and serve me acceptably with reverence and godly fear, he said, I am the consuming fire still, I will burn you up. Let's see how I did that. Let's look at it again. We have seen this day that God doth talk with man and that he liveth. 2 things about God. God speaks and he's alive. What's God saying to us? That's the most important thing to know about God. I'm alive and I talk. Okay? If he's living, if God is alive today, when he speaks, he's speaking what? Today. That's why he says, today. If any man hear my voice, harden not your heart. Because I'm alive and I'm talking not from last year, 200,000 years ago. I'm talking today. I'm just issues in your life today. All right. Next verse.
Now therefore,
Now therefore, why should we die.
Yeah, why should we die?
Well, what means they're going to die? For this great fire will consume us. If we hear the voice of the Lord our God anymore, then we shall die. Why? Because every time God spoke, that fire is getting closer and closer to us.
Right, right.
If we go back for round 2, he's going to burn us all up. And they knew that. That's why don't let God speak to them, because if he does, we'll die.
Yes, that's true. Look at that.
God's voice is going to do one of two things to you. It's going to cause you to live or die. Period. Just that simple. I'd rather God speak with the heat on, with the covering the thick darkness, and hear it that way, than to speak out of the fire and come out to me with hot wrath. When does God come that way? When we're going too far. And evidently we're going too far.
Yeah.
Well, that's how God is coming at us. Ain't he? Yeah, he's been coming at us real hard. For a while now. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm surprised to see y'all show up every Sunday. I really am. I'm surprised to see you come on Wednesday night. I expect the place to be empty. You know? I told the Lord, I said, Lord, you have to give me a little soft measure every now and then, just to keep him, straight. Because this kind of, you don't pay no attention to that kind of stuff, do you? For who is there of all flesh that hath heard the voice of the living God, speaking out of the midst of the fire, as we have, and lived? Go thou near and hear all that the Lord our God shall say, and speak unto us all that the Lord our God shall speak unto thee. And we will hear it and do it. You go talk to God, we'll listen to you. Because you don't have any fire coming out of you. And the Lord heard the voice of your words when you spake unto me. And the Lord said unto me, I have heard the voice of the words of this people, which they have spoken unto thee. They have well said in all that they have spoken. God said, they said the right thing. Now look what he says. Oh, that there were such a heart in them, that they would fear me and keep all my commandments always. They didn't have the heart to do it. You do. God, man, this was God's longing back in the Old Testament. He said, oh, I wish they had a heart like that. So in the New Testament, I'll give them a heart of flesh. Write my laws in their hearts and their minds and cause them to walk upright. I'll give them a heart I wish those folks had. You got it. That's why he says there's no escape for you. Because you got a whole different kind of heart. You got the heart that God wished they had, that God put in you, and then he speaks to you from heaven. How could it be anything less than blasphemy against the Holy Ghost? Not to believe it. How can it be anything less than that? How can it be anything other than an unforgivable sin? How? I mean, somebody didn't believe that God spoke on Mount Sinai. What do you do with them in the congregation? What function do they have? What role can they play? To be at the mountain and hear God's voice and ignore it? They're only fit for death. Same thing with us. To hear God speak from heaven and ignore it, what are you fit for in God's economy? What function can you have? How can God use you? He can only use folks to hear his voice and know his voice. Those that don't, he said it's going to be, life unto life or death unto death. Okay, it's 3 o'clock. I'll see you Wednesday.